Thank you for sticking with us today on Blitz. I'm your host, Brian Carter, and right now we'll have our first ever in-studio interview with Georgia Mountain Christian's Academy basketball coach, Anthony Cox. For those of you who are not familiar with the Christian Academy, they're located just across the street from Habersham Central High School. Beyond that, I don't know a whole lot about the Academy myself, so Coach, could you just start off by talking a little about the Academy in general and a little about the enrollment, and then hit in on the athletics part of it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Georgia Mountain's Christian Academy used to be Central Heights Christian School. It was grades K through 12, and then a few years ago there was a decision made to scale back a little bit. The name was changed to Georgia Mountain's Christian, and the high school was removed, so it went just grades K through 8. Since then, the decision was made to begin to sort of re-add the high school grades. So now we're at K through 10, and each year we're adding another grade. So within the next couple of years, we'll have a full K through 12 again. It's a small private Christian school, and there's about 65 to 70 students from kindergarten all the way through 10th grade. So we're still in the sort of rebuilding phase, but some exciting things are happening, and so I'm happy to be a part of it.
Talk a little about the athletic programs. What programs are offered there, and what are the age groups look like in that area?
Athletics has always been a big part of Central Heights and now Georgia Mountain's Christian. We have several different sports that we offer. There's girls volleyball. Of course, their season's concluded. We have both girls and boys basketball, and we also have a golf team. The basketball program has traditionally been pretty strong, especially on the girls' side. Actually, my father-in-law used to coach the girls, and they won a Christian school national championship several years ago. So at this point, we're sort of trying to rebuild the foundation and really build it back into something that we can really be proud of.
Now, as far as basketball goes, what background do you have in the game as a player and as a coach prior to GMCA?
Yeah, well, I've played basketball all my life, since I was a little kid, and I'm from Florida originally, so I didn't play high school ball at Central. I get asked that quite a bit, but so I'm from Florida. I came up here to Piedmont College to play basketball here. Played 4 years there and started my last 2 years, and I've coached in various arenas since then. My wife and I, Jennifer and I, have both coached at Westminster Christian School, which is in Gainesville. Now it's called North Georgia Christian School. We've coached YBOA teams here in Habersham, the girls teams, several girls teams, and been doing work here at GMCA for 2 years now. Right now I do both the JV boys and the varsity boys teams.
Now on your varsity team you have one junior, and then on your JV team you've only got one sophomore. And with those age groups, how does it work out with playing some of those, like the one junior and then the one sophomore on the JV, playing with 5th, 6th, and 7th graders? How does that usually work out?
Yeah, it's a real challenge. We've got some good, talented, skilled young players, so it makes it a little bit easier. But as I mentioned, we only go to 10th grade in the school. Actually, the junior that we have on the varsity team, which led us to playing a varsity schedule, is a homeschooler. We have several homeschoolers that play on our team. And so our varsity consists of the one 11th grader down to, in fact, we have a 6th grader on the varsity squad. Now he also plays on the JV team, but it's a challenge for us to make sure that we're incorporating everybody. But the ones that are on the varsity have enough skill where they can compete if they need to, and so practices are good, and with the JV team, we sort of focus more on the basics, making sure that people understand what the game is about and where they're supposed to be. And so we, in the JV level, which turns out to basically be a middle school level, we try to give everybody a chance to play so they gain some experience. And in fact, they've had some good success this year.
Talking about the JV team and the varsity team as well, when you go play other Christian academies, how does the competition line up? Is it similar as far as the age groups and stuff, or does it kind of vary?
It really does vary a lot. We play several schools that are, for example, in the varsity are legitimate varsity teams. They'll have 11th and 12th graders, and we struggle to compete in some of those games. Other times, a varsity team could have seniors on down to freshmen, like somewhat similar to what we have. And then the JV, oftentimes you'll have middle school kids playing on those teams as well. So we're pretty comparable on the JV level for the most part. The varsity level is we're younger than most of the teams we play, but it's a good experience for us, and that's how we build a program, is by playing better competition.
And speaking of good competition, you recently had a game, 2 overtime loss at War Hill Christian, and that was 76-71 was the final in that game. That had to be frustrating for a coach going 2 overtimes and losing. Talk a little about that game.
Yeah, it was really frustrating. In fact, we started out very slowly. That was probably the most frustrating part. I think we were down 19-4 at the end of the first quarter. And in fact, we came back and were ahead by 1 point at halftime. Really started to execute the game plan and be a little more aggressive offensively. And second half was basically back and forth, as you can imagine. We ended up going into overtime and made a couple of big shots from people who we wouldn't have expected necessarily to do that. So it was real exciting, and I was proud of those kids. And we played well. We at times felt like we were battling the guys in the stripes as well.
It's usually the case.
Any of you referees watching, I'm not getting on to you, but it was, it seemed a little bit unbalanced. They had their best player, who was a senior, he shot 30 free throws through the course of the game. And it's going to be really tough to win a game, especially a close one when the other team's getting so many free throws.
Yeah.
So,
do you know roughly how many he made out of those 30?
I'm not sure. He struggled a little bit down the stretch. Early on, he was making more, but he made enough to win. So
yeah, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Now, Coach, looking at your varsity roster in particular, if the group of guys that are on that roster right now stay together, then in a couple of years you're going to have 4 seniors and 3 juniors. How competitive do you think your team's going to be at that point?
Very much so. The guys that we have on the team don't have a lot of strong basketball background. A couple of them have played at the school since they were kids in middle school, and so they've got some experience, but don't have the upper level experience in the AAUs and the YBAs and things of that nature. So they all basically joined in last year with us, and we made a commitment to sort of try to build the foundation, and both individually and as a team. And we're showing a whole lot of improvement from last year to this year, and I can only expect, if they're willing to put in the individual work that it takes to become good players, that as a team we'll excel in the next couple of years.
Now, at this point, though, you still have, as you mentioned, I think you said you had, is it a 7th grader or a 6th grader on the varsity team? How do you work out trying to get the younger kids a chance to step on the scene at the varsity level?
Well, in our case, a lot of times the younger kids actually play both JV and varsity. The 6th grader in particular plays JV, and he'll basically play the whole game on JV. He's a good player. With Christian schools, it's not that uncommon to have somebody play a few quarters in JV and then a few in varsity, just because of the limited numbers that we have. So, most of the younger guys get a good chance on JV, and they're there on varsity just in case we need them. And sometimes they have to step in and contribute. And in particular, the little 6th grader, he plays with a lot of energy. So sometimes if I just need somebody to get out there and sort of pick us up, then I'll tell them, get in there and do what you do. And so it's fun, and they get to learn while they're on the bench with us and see what's going on, and every once in a while get a chance to get in there.
All right, well, Coach, thank you very much for your time on Blitz today, and we appreciate you coming out to the studio to do this interview today.
Appreciate you having us.
Now, Coach Cox is going to leave, but when I come back on the other side of the break, we're going to have some highlights, news, and the player of the week, so stick around.